Welcome to this Semgrep webinar. I am Tanya Janca, your host, also known as She Hacks Purple. I work on the developer relations team, and basically I get to do awesome things like this, like do public speaking, attend community events, help organize community events, write and speak and engage. That is the idea of developer relations. And for this little Semgrep webinar here on July 23rd, 2025, I'm going to talk about artificial risks, basically artificial intelligence, gaming, and threat modeling. How do those interconnect? And so let me get a little bit more specific. So what are we going to talk about today? Artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about gaming and the gaming industry because there's a lot there and it is changing really quickly right now. And threats to games that are specifically from AI. And we're going to talk about how we can combat some of them. And some of these threats apply to just all software. However, a lot of them are just specific. Like I tried to focus more on ones that are just specifically very problematic for games or that are only for games, because the gaming industry is very different than, for instance, the financial industry or the healthcare industry, etc. And it's huge. So quick spoiler alert, I don't really play games, I just secure them. I've worked with many companies about securing their games, including 3 household names that you definitely know their names, but I'm not telling you about them because of non-disclosure agreements. And so that's really fun. And so having worked with gaming companies, both short-term and long-term, helped me understand that they tend to be on the very, very forefront of all things cybersecurity and hacking. Sometimes they're even ahead of the financial industry because a lot of things get started, like a lot of hacks get tried first in a game because they feel, malicious actors feel that there might be less punishment than if they attack a bank, if that makes sense. A lot of people that start hacking games are children. So they start playing games when they're young and their ethics aren't quite fully secure yet. I was at a meetup last night with a penetration tester I've known a very long time. Uh, oh gosh, 5 or 6 years now. And his fiance, they just got engaged, was telling me, yeah, I had dinner with his mom and she was telling me at like 12 years old, she starts getting calls from banks, like when her son was 12, my fiance, of like, your son just hacked our bank. Like, this is not cool. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'll ground him. Like, and so he was definitely hacking games and like, and so I might not enjoy playing games very much, but I love a challenge when it comes to security. And threat modeling games and securing games, like the application security of games, is an amazing puzzle to solve. And so with AI coming out, I'm like, I feel like this is a good topic to talk about that people might be interested in. And so thank you very much for coming today to hear me go on and on about a thing that I find interesting. So let's go. So you might be thinking, who's this lady? So she's Tanya Janca, and this is the mandatory About Me slide. So speakers do this slide specifically so that you will think we're qualified to give the talk we're giving. So I do developer relations at Semgrep. I am known as She Hacks Purple, and yes, I wear a lot of purple. And purple is a security reference. So there's red team, those are attackers, those are like pen testers, red teamers, people that write exploits. And then there's blue team, the defenders, the people that deploy that nice WAF for you, that give you the secure coding training, the people that help you like defend your systems. And if you can't make up your mind and you keep doing both, people call you purple team. I wrote some books. Alice and Bob Learn Secure Coding came out in February, and Alice and Bob Learn Application Security a few years ago. I should update this slide. It is now 29 years in tech. I'm now working on my 29th year. That's a long time. I am a founder of a couple companies. Most notably, We Hack Purple, um, an open source project, a WASP DevSwap, the hashtag and movement, Cyber Mentoring Monday. So every single Monday on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Mastodon, and LinkedIn, every Monday, I use that hashtag to try to connect people with professional mentors. So check it out if you need a mentor, or better yet, if you want to be a mentor. And as well as WOSEC Women of Security. I'm an advisor at Catalyst. Oh, and I need to update this, and also Smithy. And I am on the faculty for IAMS research. So I research some things. And so hopefully you're like, she seems like pretty smart. I'll stay. Yeah, she seems tolerable. Let's do this. And so back to the talk. I'm quite concerned about how AI is being used everywhere. So in some ways, it's being used very, very well. Those people should keep on going. People that are increasing efficiency, people that are increasing the safety and security of systems, people that are working on fairness and actively avoiding bias, like people that are innovating and doing great new things. That's great. Um, but not all of them are doing those things safely, and that's what I'm concerned about. I want us to go just as fast as everyone else wants to go, but I want us to be intentional that we include security and safety as we do it, and privacy, to be quite honest. I want to make sure that all those non-functional requirements like accessibility, usability, security, privacy, etc., that all of the abilities, as some people call them, are included. I know a lot of us might not consider games to be super important when we think about security and we think about like the overall world. We're like, oh, it's just games, that's just for fun and play. But the video game industry was estimated in 2024 to be $214.2 billion. And that sounds pretty important to me. If people are willing to spend that much money on it, it is important to people. And so, what are we going to cover today? 3 specific things. So risks from AI to games, using AI to make games safer, and then using AI for development safely. And that last one is time permitting. It really depends on that we have enough time. Someone brought me a coffee, and that's awesome. So I want to put it out there now that if you would like to ask a question, just put it in the chat. So, because we have the Zoom webinar setting, blah, blah, you can't just unmute and speak, unfortunately. But if you have any questions at any point, just put it in the chat. And if I see it and it's a question that has nothing to do with what I'm currently talking about or just talking about or whatever, then I'll just stop and answer it at the time, because that's the best time to answer a question is when someone asks it. And so please feel free to ask questions. So, risks from AI to games. So there are a lot of different risks that we're going to talk about. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over them briefly, and then I'm going to dive into each one because that's the big part of the talk. And so when you see the big long list, don't get intimidated. We're going to go through them. Oh, yeah. I like to think of it as threats instead of risks. So these are threats because all of these are actively happening. So none of these are theoretical. They're all like, this is happening now. Okay, so dynamic difficulty adjustment, which I'm going to explain, I promise. Generic boring games. And I'm going to get into like why that is of importance. Privacy concerns, I'm concerned about privacy. Ethical considerations for the way that characters behave. Unfair advantages. Cheating. Cultural concerns. Industry concerns. Unethical use of AI to manipulate players. That is something that I'm concerned about. So let's talk about each one. So the first one, dynamic difficulty adjustment. So AI can be used to dynamically adjust game levels based on players' behavior, based on their skill, potentially leading to extraordinarily frustrated and ticked off players, or impacting like the whole gaming experience. So not just ticking someone off one day, but if every single time it's incredibly difficult, are you going to keep playing? Like if you lose 100% of games, are you going to play? I remember I was trying to learn chess because my kids were learning chess at school and they wanted to play. And I was like, okay. So I got a little app. And when I played on easy, it basically let me win every single time. So after like a day or two, that was very boring. So then I was like, okay, I'll go to the next level up. And it just murdered me after 3 to 4 turns every single time. 100% of the time. I tried for weeks and I could never get one win on level 2. And so I deleted that game and that $12 is gone and that's fine. And I don't really love games, but I'm like, I want to learn this so that I can play with my kids. And that did not help at all, right? And it was like the most popular chess game for Android or whatever. That is fine. But now imagine you've paid hundreds of dollars for this gaming system and $100 for this game. And it's a game that you've really been looking forward to. But because you're a really good player, the AI makes it impossible for you, right? Like that's not enjoyable anymore. Like this could be used to make a game amazing, but this could be used to make a game awful too. Generic, boring games where they're all the same. So there's like a few things on this slide that I want to talk about. So if we have generic game design, so we just rely all the time on AI generated assets and we let the AI generate the narrative instead of having humans who are wildly creative create them. Let's say because the gaming company wants to save money, they think humans can't tell the difference. It leads to a lack of originality, and games feel like it's formulaic or repetitive. And then maybe people stop buying games, right? If like lots of the gaming companies start doing that, lots of people might just be like, you know what, never mind. Or maybe they'll niche up and everyone will go with the ones that are more creative, who knows? But on top of this, if AI is overshadowing human creators and human designers because it's faster, this could reduce the depth and emotional resonance of the storytelling and the design. So a lot of people who play games like they have an emotional commitment to the game, like it brings out feelings in them and it's important to them. And this could just really ruin that, right? And it could also, on top of that, like, well, I guess I'm going to get to that in another slide, so I'm jumping ahead. Another thing is market saturation. So if every single gaming company is using all these AI tools, they could just flood the market with low quality games, like derivative games, like copies of other games, making it harder for exceptional titles to stand out. Like I remember back in the day, music companies decided, like big record labels like Epic or whatever, and Sony would decide which things got played on the radio. And then that's all you really got to listen to. And then eventually, with streaming, anyone can make a song. And it can be overwhelming, but we've started to see like some of them float to the top and we get to discover lots of brand new artists. And so this could be a problem too. Privacy concerns. So this is a major issue already. Um, so AI systems collecting and analyzing player data for personalization or in-game behavior prediction, that could be cool, but it also raises concerns about are they going to sell that data, right? So privacy and security, especially if the data is mishandled, if it's sold, if it's vulnerable because it's been breached. So like for privacy specifically, like if they're collecting all of this data about users and what they're like, so they can customize the game, like they could use that to monetize the game a lot, like quite aggressively, which could lead to mistrust against users. Like if you know enough about someone, so some people will play games like 8, 10, 12 hours a day, right? Like some people play games after work every single day. Some people, like when they're younger, have more time, they play it even more. Like this is many, many, many hours that the AI gets to study you every single day. Like the AI could get to know you like no one else on Earth, literally. Um, so what is done with that data is quite disconcerting. There's also on this one, I added copyright. So copyright infringement with AI generated assets could unintentionally or totally intentionally infringe on intellectual property or privacy of others. Like you could take an AI and just say, make me a game that's just like that game. Just copy it for me and it will. And like that's really disconcerting. Um, Ethical considerations for characters and other behavior within games. So I have uh, tiny humans at home, also known as children, and I watch TV with them sometimes, and I see terrible themes in television shows. I see lots and lots of themes where the children want to go do something that's unsafe. The parents say, don't do that. The children lie to their parents. They do a thing where a real child would die, like a very unsafe thing, and or they would be kidnapped, or like they've done a thing where I would lose my mind if my children did that. And then the TV show shows that the children prevail over the criminals or the murderer or the incredibly dangerous whatever the thing was. And so lying to your parents is okay because you're totally going to be okay. That is an extremely common theme in television for made for children, and it really ticks me off as a parent. Um, I don't understand how that's allowed. And so the same thing is happening with games. And games have a rating, but I've seen these themes in children's shows. And so now imagine you have an AI in the game or alongside the TV show that is helping the child make decisions. And it's telling them, yeah, definitely jump over that huge hole that's 18 feet deep. You'll totally make it. Right? So if they're seeing these things in games, they might go do these things, especially if they're chatting with the AI and it's telling them they can. So, other issues. AI could be used to exploit players. So an advanced AI could create highly addictive gameplay loops, exploiting a specific player's psychological triggers. Imagine after collecting enough data on you, it knows you have perfectionistic tendencies. And um, it's telling you, like, it plays upon those tendencies so that you never want to stop playing because you know that, like, it will feed your personality needs, right? There could be toxic interactions. So AI-driven NPCs, those are non-playable characters, or chat systems could inadvertently propagate harmful stereotypes or offensive behaviors if they're not well designed. Like, I don't know if you remember when they made a Barbie doll that could talk, and her first words were, math is hard. I don't want to tell little girls that Barbie, who was at the time supposed to be their role model, thinks math is hard and that girls aren't good at math. Like, screw you, Mattel. Like, they thought it was like a funny joke, but what little, like, millions of little girls heard is, you're a girl and you won't be good at math, right? Like, what a complete, utter mistake. And so, like, it's very easy to make mistakes like that if we're not thoughtful. And with AI still making lots of hallucinations, like this could very easily happen. And another issue would be like lack of authentic representation. So AI generated content could lack like cultural nuances and authenticity and alienate certain types of audiences. So for an example, if the AI, oh, actually a great example. So in this talk, the AI made, like I had one of the AIs make all of the images. Did you notice how every single character was a white male? I did not tell it to do that. Every single character it made for me was a white male. And I actually have to tell it to make people of different races. I have to tell it to make women, or it will only make white males. Yeah, that Guess what? The whole world is not just white males. Evidence, right? And so um, this is a problem. There's also like bias in AI systems already that we're seeing. So AI systems are trained a lot on public data on the internet, and a lot of that has racism, sexism, homophobia, and other issues like that that are negative, where there's bias built into the data set. And so then if we aren't careful and we don't untrain those things out of it or set up safeguards and guardrails to make sure that our systems aren't acting in that way, it could propagate those harmful stereotypes within the games themselves. Okay. Unfair advantage, also known as cheating. So I didn't want to go on and on and on about cheating because that is generally the thing that everyone always talks about, and that's all they talk about. And then it becomes boring because that's the thing that people talk about the most with games. So I'm just going to give three. So there are three ways that we can have an unfair advantage. One, we cheat. So we use AI assisted gameplay. So we have aim bots, we have decision making tools, we have like AI created tools that help us win the game. That is not fair for other players. To me, that doesn't sound as fun personally, but maybe I'm a weirdo. Another thing would be hacking and exploits. So you could use the AI to identify and exploit vulnerabilities in the game code so that then you can cheat. Last night I was at the Couch and Valley Open Hack because that is a meetup that I run locally. And this guy, Roberto, who was the presenter, basically, he gave us a live demo where he used an AI for a capture the flag contest, and it got all the flags but one. And the last flag, it got him, he said 80% there. And then he did the last 6 hours of work on the very final flag. And then he got all of them. And he's like, I wasn't competing. I was doing it to prove that the AI could win the CTF. And it was amazing. Like the CTF, like it did challenges in like 2 to 3 minutes where it would take a human hours. And so, yeah, you could definitely use it to find, if it can find those vulnerabilities and exploit them, it can find other vulnerabilities and exploit them. And then the last one is AI cheating. So like actually using an AI player to dominate multiplayer games, making it completely unenjoyable for every other real human player. Um, this topic is done to death, like in the media and in other talks. So I'm going to stop on this one because obviously there's more. But let's go on to cultural concerns. So um, it sounds weird, but like games inform culture. Like there's so many different things that people will say that are from games when they talk. And basically, if AI is replacing human interaction, so if people, the game's really addictive because the AI is making it that way. And so someone's spending more and more time playing instead of spending time with real humans. They're interacting with automated moderation or AI driven non-playable characters in multiplayer games. It could mean they're reducing real, meaningful human interaction. I know lots of dating sites, there's fake profiles where like someone suddenly like really good looking who really has their shit together suddenly sends you a message even though you're like none of those things, and they're very flirty with you and they really want to meet but then they have to cancel last minute and then they disappear. uh like that, like these fake interactions are already well documented and happening in lots of dating sites, and so imagine that they're happening on these sites instead, right? And then like we end up feeling even more disconnected from real humans than we already do. So imagine as an example, like you have a bot like that has engaged with you over and over again and like you feel you get to know them and then they're always just really super agreeable. And like maybe you're mean to them, but then they're always nice. And then slowly over time, you have this habit of just like saying mean things. And then you're in real life with a real person and you behave that way and they won't tolerate it. And then they don't want to hang out with you. And then you're like, well, maybe humans aren't so good. I'm just always going to interact with the AI. Like it can train you to have poor behavior. Um, I have more stories, but I'm not going to tell all of them because that is not helpful. Another thing is like the erosion of the player being creative. So if you have AI tools for every level, for every character creation, then that means the users themselves won't create things. So like right now when you play a game, you can like a lot of games, you can design your character, like what they look like. You can design what they're wearing. Some games let you design levels. They let you have all this feedback. But if we're using AI instead, and the AI does it, like it helps us, but really it's doing it for us. This means that we're not thinking anymore. And we're not using our brains anymore. And those creative juices aren't flowing. And I know that this might sound rather extreme, but if we're all using the AI all the time for everything as a crutch, we're not using our brains anymore. Slowly, as a society, we will become less intelligent. And over time, we will become less and less and less intelligent. And it weakens our brains noticeably if we don't ever exercise them. And millions, if not billions, of people play games, and I care about their brains, right? And so billions of us are using AI now. And so we should all be careful that we are still using our brains. Another thing on this, so I have so many things to say about cultural concerns. So um, AI-driven players can give players like this, or AI-driven tools can give players this unfair advantage, right? And then it can disrupt esports and competitive gaming integrity. So imagine like you're watching all of these like competitive games, and then you find out one of the players is actually an AI. That would feel kind of crappy, right? Especially if the AI is like winning over all of the human players. Like that would just really ruin it. And it would certainly ruin the gambling aspect of that. Not that I'm like into gambling, but I know that there is a giant side industry for that. For AI teams, right? Like if you have a team of characters that is controlled by the AI, it could dominate against multiplayer ecosystems and just alienate all the human players. AI algorithms can make complex decisions in games, and it could occasionally produce unintended or undesired outcomes. So things that affect like the fairness level, immersion, satisfaction, etc. Like imagine you've been playing for a long time and then you find out that that player you've been playing with all this time was an AI and not a real person. You would probably feel betrayal, a loss of trust, and that relationship would be over, right? Industry concerns. So the gaming industry is huge and makes a lot of jobs that people have wanted since they were a kid. So like game design, character design, level design, voice acting, narration, writing, all of these things are potentially being displaced by AI. These are super cool jobs. And many people like dream their whole life of having these jobs, and then imagine a lot of them don't exist anymore. Um, so I wrote some books, and my latest book, I'm going to narrate it for the audiobook version, like I did for my first book. And when I went to go sign the contract said basically that they could copy my voice and use it to narrate other books and not compensate me. And I was like, no. And we changed the contract and then I signed. But you better believe it, lots of other narrators probably didn't read the contract and just signed. And I don't know what the intention is in the long run. Like the company told me, oh, we would never do that. But if the contract says that, why does it say that? right? I went to give a workshop with a company and they said the same thing. Basically, like, we're going to train the AI on your workshop and then we can use that to produce other content. I'm like, no, you may not. Right? And then so they agreed to sign not to do that. However, how do I know they're not just doing it behind my back? Right? Um, a lot of us are concerned about job displacement and about having our intellectual property stolen. And that's sort of like a double whammy for the gaming industry, like both sides of that coin. Development costs. So while AI can reduce some costs, smaller studios might end up struggling against bigger studios, which I know they already do, but struggle even more because perhaps the larger companies can afford the really expensive AI tools and the smaller companies can't. And like, we want to have lots of companies and lots of competition in this space so that we can have lots of innovation and lots of cool new things. If we cut out all the small companies, we will lose that. That is bad for industry, not good. Um, Innovation stagnation. So if we all depend only on AI, it could limit innovation and studios might stop spending money on traditional development processes because they're like, oh, I can just like make a game in 10 minutes if I use AI and it's almost as good, so we'll just do that. And it just leads to a mess. And on top of that, like, plagiarism and cloning of games is an issue already, where people are trying to use AI to make copies of games that already exist and just like make it really close so that people are interested. And the whole thing, like, I think gaming studios need to be quite conscientious and intentional in the way they use AI so that it's good for them in the long run. Unethical use of AI to manipulate players. So this is something I'm super concerned about. Um, so like right now, if you look at social media, actually, let me just take a sip. And I'm gonna give you all, actually, you know what? I would like to ask the audience what you think an unethical use of AI could be to manipulate a player. What types of manipulations could they do? I am going to give you some answers, but I would love to hear what the audience thinks of these things. So the first thing I want to say is if we look right now at social media, and this has been documented, and they all deny it, but we can see it in the data, that the algorithms on social media try to manipulate you to stay on social media as long as possible. And they often do this by showing you more and more extreme content. So if you start by looking, I don't know, how to nail a nail with a hammer, right? Like, you're like, I've never used a hammer before. I'm an alien and I've never seen one. And I want to put up a picture on my wall and I need to know how to do it. And so you watch a video on that. And then you're like, oh, that was great. And then you watch another one, another one. By the end, there could be like violent videos. There could be like super extreme, weird, like, let's use 12 hammers. Like, it just gets more and more intense. And we are seeing this as a society affect people and push them towards extremism and militantism. And it isolates people and it does not help our society. And so this is already a problem right now. And so imagine if games have AI and the AI is either one, trained to manipulate, or two, there aren't safeguards to ensure it does not do this. It could lead to, so the first example is over monetization. So imagine it optimizes ways that the game tries to get money from you to the point where it basically exploits players' personality traits through aggressive microtransactions, or loot box efforts. So like where it generates a virtual item in a game for you and like you do the thing over and over again to try to get stuff. Like I see my kids like wanting to spend any money they have on like weird virtual things that don't exist instead of like buying candy or actual toys, and it like freaks me out, right? And so Imagine how much a child or adult could be intentionally manipulated with AI for this. It's quite scary. Unbalanced gameplay. So AI-driven dynamic difficulty could make things feel unfair or could be used specifically to manipulate players, leaving a sour taste in their mouth, giving them very intense emotions. And it could make them hate other players, right? Make them very, very angry. Loss of player agency. So if they rely too much on AI systems, it could make games feel less interactive, less engaging. Like imagine, so think, I don't know if you ever saw like the Tour de France and Lance Armstrong did this whole thing about basically like if you like everyone uses drugs on the Tour de France, all of the people that are succeeding use drugs, and basically you cannot possibly win or place anywhere in the Tour de France unless you do drugs. And so that sucks. That totally sucks that you would have to use drugs on your body in order to win at a professional sport, and we can't just like rely on our real human selves. And so it'll become to the point where like if you don't use AI, then you just can't even get anywhere in a game. And that's not fun. Um, Algorithms could be used to target players with personal in-game advertisements like that are based on their specific behavior and traits, leading like, and that could be quite manipulative. AI could analyze player behavior and then give them tailored experiences that could blur the line between the players choosing this versus they're being manipulated to choose this, right? And then maybe they feel kind of used after. Like like all of this to say that AIs can be used for good or bad. And if you are a player and you feel manipulated after, how's that is that going to make you feel like this industry respects you? And so now I want to go on to using AI to make games safer because that's what we want to do. That's what I think all of us want. And so I'm going to go over the things and then we'll go over more in more detail. Oops, my cursor is in the way. Um, so content moderation and behavioral analysis, safer playing environments, using AI to stop cheating, using AI to detect fraud, using AI for enhanced play, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that, increasing representation and accessibility, increasing community engagement, adding educational content and positive content to increase happiness in players. So let's look at the first one, content moderation and behavioral analysis. So imagine a real-time chatbot that can filter toxic language live, or filter out hate speech live, or stop harassment in real time. So as an example, Roblox right now, it will filter out swear words. So if you say the F word, it changes it to duck. Or no, so that's what the iPhone does. But it even removes the word duck from Roblox because they started seeing players using duck instead of the F word. And so now you're not allowed saying duck in Roblox. Um, Contextual understanding. So an advanced AI might be able to identify harmful content even if it's quite subtle or if it's in coded forms. And this is especially important for protecting children, right, from malicious adults in games. And so it could do so much better job than what we're doing now because you can't watch every single conversation. You just can't. Um, you could have customized moderation, so allowing players or communities to set personal thresholds for language and personal thresholds for behavioral. So as an example, on Spotify, like I'm cool with swear words in my music. The F word is totally okay with me, but I am not okay with racial slurs in music. That makes me really uncomfortable. And like if and with Spotify, it's yes or no. So if I want to listen to R&B and don't want to hear that women are the B word or the N word, which personally I really don't want to hear in my music, then I have no option, right? Like you just have to like block songs one at a time. There's no, I'm uncomfortable with racism and sexism, but I am cool with profanity. There's no option for that. But with AI, you could do that. And so you could have people that are quite sensitive, that have things set quite tight, and other people that are like, yeah, yeah, it's all good, right? And so then everyone can have an experience that's comfortable for them. Um, with behavioral analysis, we could have it detect cheaters and abnormal gameplay so much faster potentially, right? And it could track like it could just detect these things so much faster. It could monitor toxic players. So for instance, it could analyze a player and flag them as someone that is trying to elicit angry messages and angry things from other people. Like I do social media threads all the time, and there'll be people that come on. So there's some people where they want to talk and start conversation and discuss, and some people that have a different viewpoint and they thoughtfully want to engage, and that is awesome. And or they're like, I disagree with you on a technical level, and here's why. I'm like, cool. But then there are other people where they're like, I want to fight. I want to cause a fight. I'm not adding any value. I am just disruptive and I am a jerk. And like if the AI could track those people and maybe give them a message and say like, are you really adding value to this conversation with that comment? Like it looks like you are trying to pick a fight for the third time today. Do you think you should take a break from this game? Right? Like that could really improve everything for everyone, including potentially that person. Um, Safer playing environments. So imagine if you have an AI driven reporting system. And so it categorizes reports from players, ensuring that we have faster resolution from harassment. Or maybe we have some players that are like more aggressive, but they're comfortable with playing other players that are more aggressive. And we have other players that are more sensitive and have lower thresholds, and they could all play together, right? Like we could do so many more things. You could have a personalized block list, like I suggested with, I don't want racial slurs. That makes me uncomfortable, right? And so I could have a bunch of words that are just my blocked words. I know that on Twitter you can block certain words, and I don't want to hear lots of American politics because I am a Canadian. And so I tried blocking Trump, and it's still all I see. I don't know what they mean with this block list because that's literally all I see in my thread. And I'm just like, but what if I don't want to see American politics on like literally every single tweet? And Twitter's like, too bad. But imagine if it worked. Anti-cheating. So I don't want only to talk about cheating, but um, there's amazing things that we could do with AI, like for pattern recognition. It would be able to spot unusual inputs or impossible moves faster than traditional systems. It could do adaptive learning, continuously evolving on anti-cheating mechanisms by learning from new exploits. It could scour places like online forums, especially like a lot of games have their own community forums. It could scour them to see when people are complaining about a thing, and then it could go address the thing. And then if it was even smarter, it could go back to the community, thank them for talking about it and saying what it did to try to address the issue. Like that's amazing. Um, Fraud detection. So there's some fraud. So marketplace integrity. So AIs could monitor in-game economies for fraudulent transactions, for scams, for currency farming. So currency farming is like you figure out a cheat or an exploit that works to artificially gain amounts of in-game currency, and then you loop that over and over again. Like so sometimes it's called like farming the currency. And so those people are jerks and we want to stop them, right? We don't want cheaters. Um, no one actually wants that except the cheaters. And even the cheaters, like when they can cheat, the game's not as fun for them. And so that would be a good way that we could stop theft, fraud, and cheating. We could do account protection. So like imagine we are using the AI to identify unusual login patterns of suspicious activity. It could help us prevent brute forcing and credential stuffing, etc. Brute force attacks on login screens are such a complicated business negotiation when you're making software. And so if you could use AI to help that be better, like that would be amazing. Enhanced play. So I said I would explain what I mean by this. So I have many examples of what I mean by enhanced play. So play that is just like better than ever. So imagine we use dynamic difficulty adjustment for good, right? So we adjust our NPCs, our non-playable characters, based on a player's skill level so that we balance the challenge for them. So then two players that are completely unequal could play together and really enjoy. So sometimes I'll try to play games with my kids and spoiler alert, really suck. And then I'm like slowing them down the whole time and they get really frustrated with me and I'm like doing my best here, right? Um, and so like imagine it makes it easier for me because the game can tell I totally suck so that I can keep up with them and play with them, right? And then it's a fun experience, but it's still hard for them because they're good, right? So imagine that. So then you could have and yeah, like I'm going to stop on that one. Um, Intelligent behavior. So imagine AI opponents that can learn and adapt to your strategies so they provide more and more personalized gaming experience for you. Um, Imagine tailoring the experiences so it knows your preferences, the way that your play style, it customizes game recommendations, difficulty, missions. It can get to know your specific tastes. So for instance, a few slides ago, you might have noticed, but you probably didn't, and that's okay, that all the slides have a lot of pink and purple. I really like purple. And so I told the AI, like, could you add more purple and pink to all my slides? Because I like that. And it did it. Right. And so imagine it could make a whole game purple for me if I wanted. I love sci-fi. I read a zillion sci-fi books. Imagine like if it could add a sci-fi slants to games, right? Like a surprising thing, so I have an Audible subscription, and so that's audiobooks, and I have for many, 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 many years, like a decade probably, or close to a decade. And I have a subscription. I have like the big subscription, but then I always buy many extra books per month. I listen to at least 5 books a month, but usually way, way, way more. And somehow Audible still doesn't understand I like sci-fi. It's basically all I ever listen to, and they'll still suggest a bunch of stupid books that aren't sci-fi. And I just don't know how all these years and like if you look through my list of books, it's sci-fi, 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 nonfiction, sci-fi, 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 sci-fi. And like it still doesn't get it, right? But the AI would know exactly what to suggest to me. And so then maybe the suggestions I would actually pay attention to because they wouldn't all completely suck. We could have amazing accessibility features. Like imagine adopting an entire game for someone who's blind versus someone who's just visually impaired. So they can see, but perhaps they can't see certain colors, or they need to have extremely intense contrast, or they need to have very, very little contrast, right? Like there's all sorts of different types of visual impairment. It's not just 0 or 1. I can see perfectly or I'm blind. There's so many things in between. And what if it could adjust for all of those, right? And for people with hearing impairments, um, speaking impairments, like there's so many different things that we could do to make a game so much better for people that don't have like perfectly abled bodies. And that's lots of us. We could have smarter NPCs. We could have NPCs that are sensitive and thoughtful and kind, that improve your day, right? Like that counsel you because they can tell by the way you're playing that you're frustrated and you're upset, and they pause the game to talk to you, to encourage you, and ask you if you're okay, right? Um, we could have natural language processing as part of the game, empowering players to communicate with NPCs like a real person, like having them respond meaningfully to you. And so it could help people who are struggling with loneliness and who aren't feeling connected. And it could help encourage them to like call a friend or call their mom or their sister or whoever, right? And like we could have positive emotional impact on our players. Um, I have more. Oh, Yeah, there's like so many things that we could do to create enhanced play. Like there's so many things. Um, Representation and accessibility. So I know I talked a little bit about accessibility, but there's more. So like we could have very diverse content creation where we have every single religion, every single race, every single like gender and gender expression and sexuality and like every like age, like different types of mobility, and people like people with different ability like physical abilities with their bodies, all represented in our games so that we could see what the real world looks like in our games instead of just seeing what we normally see in games, which is a lot of white players that are mostly dudes or extremely, extremely, extremely attractive and scantily clad females. We could actually have women that wear clothes. Oh my God. We could have bias detection. So we could use the AI to ensure that the content is free from stereotypes and free from discrimination. So everyone feels welcome and wanted and equal and included. Um, we could have so much assistive technology built into the games with the help of AI so that we have real-time subtitles and audio descriptions and gameplay adjustments for people that don't have the same physical abilities as everyone else. We could have customized controls. So imagine the AI suggests adaptive controls based on a player's physical needs. So imagine it could detect that you're having a problem. Imagine it could suggest, I actually suggest you go to the eye doctor because it would appear that you're not 20/20. Did you forget to wear your glasses today? Or perhaps you need a trip to the eye doctor, right? Maybe it could tell you're dehydrated, right? Like, and there's lots of people who aren't disabled, but they're not fully abled like everyone else, and it could adjust for those people. And like, there's just so much that we could do so that people just have such a better time. Community engagement. So community is a huge part of the gaming world. And so imagine like, we're getting player feedback and it could analyze the sentiment so quick. So it could analyze that feedback and review and identify areas for improvement and then go improve those areas almost immediately, right? And then analyze more sentiment and see if, okay, so now people are happier with this. Great, I've done a good job. Or, oh, I made it worse. Let's do something else. Like you could do testing in real time. Community insights. So imagine we're using the AI to find trending topics or concerns in forums or social media, and then we address it faster than humans possibly could. We could do content generation based on player-driven content. So imagine we use the AI to help the players create a completely custom level, brand new skins, brand new scenarios, brand new stories. The player could feel empowered and invested. They feel like they're a part of this game and part of the community, like their opinion really truly matters. And they could share what they've created with other players. And that makes them feel connected and feel a part of something. And right now, the entire world is having problems with feeling disconnected, especially since COVID. And so this is something we could do to make people feel more connected. We could hold live events that are dynamic using AI to generate like limited time events or quests based on a player's current interests. And it could pick up on trends faster than perhaps your competitors that aren't using AI, right? And make people feel like they are a part of something. And that is a thing that will stick for everyone and give people more meaning. For educational and positive content. So like I think we should have more positive content. I think that when we watch the news, it's all bad stuff. And negative stuff and people being harmed and hurt. And what if we had positive news in games? What if we used games to teach people, right? So imagine we had gamified learning. So we use the AI to intentionally integrate educational content into games. So learning is actually fun for adults and for kids. So like obviously we want all the kids to learn, but I would love it if while I'm playing the game, it like popped up and gave me a tip, or it's like the other player that you're playing with speaks Portuguese. This is how you could say hello in Portuguese, And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to say hello in Portuguese. That seems like a nice thing to do, right? Like there's things we could do where we slowly teach our players if we built it in intentionally. We could do mental health awareness. So creating AI-driven mechanisms to promote mental health, which is something I think we definitely need by encouraging breaks, providing calming gameplay, adding alerts if you think a player may be having a serious mental health issue or other type of health issue. It could suggest a movement break or a food break. You know, you probably need have you had a drink of water in the past 2 hours? Because you should probably go get one. I'm going to pause the game till you get back. Like there's all sorts of things it could do to better our health and like give us these little nudges that could create healthier humans across the board, right? If we just did effort to do that. And so I said that we would do using AI for development, but we clearly don't have time for that. I'm sorry. So I'm just gonna have to wrap up. I just get really excited, so please forgive me for talking a bit too much during my talking. Okay, so we learned a few things today. We talked about several risks to AI in games and how I'm worried about them. And then we talked about how we can avoid those risks. And then a lot of really cool ideas of how we could use AI to make games safer and like just like a more positive impact on society as a whole, right? Like I think there's so many more cool things that we could do with games to help people be a better version of themselves, a happier, healthier version of themselves. And so with that, I want to give you a couple of resources. So the first resource is Semgrep Academy. Learn something new for free. So the Academy is completely free, and we have courses on secure coding, on application security, incident response, how to write Semgrep rules, how to completely totally kick butt and use Semgrep. We have all sorts of stuff in there, and I think that you will like it. Um, my books. So I have written 2 books. Alice and Bob Learn Secure Coding. So if you write code, you want the yellow one. If you want to build a security program where you work, you want the purple one. TLDR So my friend Clint, this is his free newsletter. So every week he analyzes all the security research, so not the news, but the research, and then he summarizes all of the stuff that he thought was interesting, and it is a lot. It's incredible the amount of data that he analyzes each week. And then basically you can read summaries and decide what you want to double click on. It's very, very cool. It makes me look smart all the time. And then resources me. So there's uh, I have a newsletter, I have YouTube, I have a website. I'm on all the socials except for the meta socials. And this could be the start of a long-term relationship if you want it to be. And then lastly, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Tanya and I'm from Semgrep, and we really appreciate you coming to this little presentation. And so I'm wondering if there are any questions or comments that you would like to share with me before we wrap up. Well, I guess everyone's a little bit shy today. Um, I want to thank you very much for coming. I'm really, really happy that all of you are here. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you, and that's it. Thank you.